Hello. I finally got a moment to myself, so I thought I would sort of explain what I have going on over here. If you're seeing this video, I think I have some pretty useful ideas and some pretty useful things that I've noticed. So if you could, please just give me a moment of your time. Maybe don't have anything else going and sort of listen to me intently. Because this way of viewing things is it's subtle, it's simplistic. I think you're already doing it, right? And so what I think I've figured out, and I'll go over how I figured that out, was that awareness, like the subjective phenomenon of awareness, of you're like, okay, I'm aware, that what that is the water of your body. And so what you could best mechanically, perceptually, linguistically reference as awareness, which is kind of correlated with things called life, consciousness, intention, right? Like all these things kind of tie in together with awareness. And if you see that awareness that we call ourselves and that place from which we have freedom to move is the water of the body. When we have awareness that we're capable of directing, right? Where you have awareness capable of directing, that's the surface of the water. That's your life. That's your attention. That's I'm someone, I'm something, and I'm looking somewhere. And so that type of water is what we subjectively call EZ water. That's where that type of attention comes from. And when that type of attention is sort of like aggregated into a body, then it becomes I'm something. The vantage point of self emerges from there, from that surface. And so every living being has this fractal amount of surface area of water surrounding all the DNA, surrounding all the cells. It's in the blood vessels, it's in sheaths along organs, it's in sheaths inside organs, it's inside of muscles, it's inside of cells. And at all of these layers, you get EZ water, is what Gerald Pollack, I think, has caused it. And it's exclusion zone water, and it just sort of pumps, it goes against, it has this ability to move against the laws of entropy, it seems, kind of like it spontaneously somehow is absorbing energy from somewhere to create ion gradients, like a charge differential. Water is somehow absorbing some sort of higher energy from somewhere, and it's capable of pushing things against the direction of entropy, like of where things want to flow in the water. And so where you subjectively experience that is in the direction of your attention. Like you can put your attention on a pineapple, but more accurately, I'm putting my attention on my vision. Or I could put my attention in my hand, right? And so that area where I'm able to direct my attention, that is the freedom and the power and the pressure of EZ water. That's your mental telepathy. That's your ability to take that higher consciousness energy and use it and move it and direct it against the forces of entropy. It's the place that it is right at the control of attention, the control of the direction of where you're looking. You're looking that way, and you could be, I'm looking that way. And that's the only thing you can control. Everything else is fated and deterministic, and everything else other than that subjective experience of here's where I have control. And that's at the EZ layer water. That's the looker, right? At the water, this pattern on the surface of the water is the looking with the direction of looking, right? And you could imagine that as a wave, like the sum total of energy that you are on the surface of on the earth is kind of a wave. It's moving funny, it's composed of weird stuff, but it is a wave, it is a rolling. Like when you are walking, all the energy in your body is actually just rolling, just like a wave is just energy rolling through the ocean. As you walk forward, the body rolls. It spins, it cycles, it sloshes back and forth to move. And so that's your attention, that's your awareness, that's where you are. Right. So my main goal with all of this is to make that obviously and evidently possible. I think when people have the correct belief about their awareness, I think it's vitalizing. I think when people have a correct belief about their own awareness, the quality by which they do things, be it like exercise or a work or parenting, reproduction, just existing, meditation, prayer, religion. If people have the correct belief about awareness, they tend, I think they tend to perform better in physical acts, mental explorations, contemplation, stuff like that. And so awareness is the body water. When you're looking at the surface of the ocean, you are looking, when you take water in, water is a sacred substance, obviously, and also the most mundane substance. So of course you have this thing that sparkles and glitter like diamonds, and is the sustenance of all life. You take shits in it, right? Like this. If you look at the relationship that people have with water, that is the relationship that we have with God. It mediates that relationship that we have with God, which is seen in this like fractal expression of like how we use it to go to the toilet, how we like bless it. We like a large portion of the world believes that they are baptized. People believe that the human life only enters into new life, into higher, more conscious life through water. And water is also thought to be what destroys the world, right? And it's also what gives life to everything. Like water is this thing by which we mediate with higher aspects of consciousness, and as such, it's the location, it's the source of the looker, and it's the locus of control that you have in any situation. So the locus of control that you have in any situation is the exact same locus of control, not the locus that moves the eye, of like, I'm going to look here, and then I'm going to look there, but the locus of control that goes, oh, I'm here, I'm going to look at the pineapple, and then without looking at anything else, I could maybe start looking at the cup over there. Or I could start looking at my left toe. Like that directionality, where is that directionality? It's not directional like a sense organ is directional, that a sense organ faces or presents itself more to the reality. So you could see the eyeballs moving, the head shifting to hear, the body shifting to feel, right? This directionality of like, where do you move your attention around from? And it's this absorptional energy that people have found in easy water, where it just forms like at the boundary layer, it starts like pumping out hydrogens. It just makes a charge differential. Where is it getting the energy from? Probably light. Right, so that's you have sheaths of that, and this energy aggregates, it accumulates. It can be a single surface. If you're a single surface, you get this single-minded attention, this perception, this looking. The more you're present, like as you look at the water, the easy water this attention can build up in layers, right? These layers of mindful water, as it accumulates, you start to get more and more like aura, more and more presence, more and more field. What that is that the layers are building up, and they're they're talking. So you can have layers for like truly coordinated movement. You want to be looking with the sheath of water that connects each hand to the other hand. You want to be looking with the sheath of water by which the arms connect to the body. Right, like it's you can explore this stuff in any number of ways, right? And so when you're just looking at being and you know that the place that you're looking from is the surface of the water of your body, it makes it very easy to know the location of the activity you're trying to do. You're trying to be present, you're trying to be mindful. What does it do when you're present and you're mindful? It does this thing that water obviously does. And you can feel it. And so as you look, if you feel, and by feel I mean having a location in the body by which you can look. Right? Like if I feel my whole body, I can with my whole body look at my vision, or with my whole body I can feel the floor. The whole thing is a direction of locus. It's looking, it's listening, it's that surface of the water. And so that surface is forming tubes and conduits through the blood vessels, through the lymph. And so you have these very like rigid in the blood vessels, even in the CSF vessels, the lymph vessels, you have fluid with not that much surface area. It's actually got a lot of depth to it, right? Whereas if you go into the tissue, if you go into a nerve cell, there's so much surface area of the water, it's like turned into a gel. When you have easy water stacked up on itself, it basically it'll turn into a gel. A gelatinous, like, conscious charge matrix. Right? And so that's very, it's this looking awareness consciousness, this surface level consciousness isn't the main game in town, and actually is just the surface of things. So the actual deeper consciousness is similar to deep water. It's the bulk water, it's the depth, it's the substance and the source of the surface water. The surface water is coming not from where the surface of the water is pressed up against other things, but it's not coming from the other things, it's coming from the water. The other things are interesting. A lot of the times there'll be something interesting on the other side of water, like your nervous system, like a feeling, a thought, a sight, or sound. That'll be showing up on the other side of your consciousness, right on the outside of water. All the water, the awareness is pressed up to it, just like the water is pressed up to your DNA, pressed up to your cells, pressed up to your fascial membranes, right? And so you can view these pockets and these bubbles of water. There's a continuous sheath of water in my body, and that moves, like the bigger the sheath, kind of the more normal the time frame. As you get into the sheath of water that's like at the cellular level, that's so much wave action down there of like every single cell is a wave, versus at this surface level, it's like the body might just be like one relatively simple surface. If I'm just aware of my outermost layer of water. If I try and like focus and get the EZ water to kind of connect and start looking at that cellular level, there's so much going on that your sense of time shifts. So people go in and out of the body in these ways. But where you're looking at, that's the surface. That's where there is an eye and a looker and objects to be looked at, right? It has to be on the surface of the water. Otherwise, you're not looking from anywhere. Imagine the consciousness that is the bulk water. Like just picture a big pool of water, and then you have the fluidic not the bulk water where there's no things in it, there's no surface, like there's no bubbles, there's no waves, it's a thing, it's right there, but there's nothing in it. Even though it's around and under and supporting everything, there's nothing to reference to, and there's nowhere to reference from, even though it is looking itself, right? So this is the only way to transition. Most people go, oh, this is just beyond words, and it kind of is beyond words, unless you recalibrate and realize that it's beyond words, but it's what you take a shower in the morning is doing the same thing. So if you just reference the behavior of water, you can very easily get a functional, non-destructive image of what the divine is doing. If outside of water, you can't really think about that non-being correctly. So it's just don't think about the non-being and just focus on that and just notice the non-being, because anything that you think about the non-being is going to be surface, not non-being. Right? So it just gets into this like reinforcing self-destructive cycle unless you use water as a bridge, and then we can think about it all day. Right? There's a lot of things like that that would be like really, really hard, except with water it makes it pretty easy. So that you have that looking, and then the looking can notice the deeper awareness, which is the unnoticeable awareness. That's in the blood, the heart, the stillness surrounding thought, right? The stillness surrounding thought, the stillness surrounding the central nervous system, the cerebrospinal fluid, is extremely clear, pristine, undifferentiated water. There's not much bubble. There's not much contrast. There's not much thingness in there, other than it is around everything and relatively peaceful. And the same thing with blood. It's like full, it's thick, but it's not over individuated, sort of. But once you realize that what's going on with when you're practicing awareness is you're playing a game with how the water of your body is moving, right? So you can feel anywhere that you feel, you know that there's surface. So if you can make that surface contiguous over a coherent body of water, over a complete body of water, you get energetically like bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you get energetically bigger, that you can start to notice that big wave that you are, on which all the tiny little fractal information of the body is just tiny little waves that's making up everything that you are. But in reality, you're this big, simple, single motion. And if that can be noticed, right, and the way that you notice that is from underneath it in the deep silence, right? If you notice that big, massive wave that you are that's moving big and deep and long and slow, you can also, that's surface, there's surface there. If you notice the wave, there's surface, and so then you can look from that really big vantage point. And so people will do practices or whatever to kind of like shatter or disturb or silence the pattern on the big wave. There's like a big, big wave, and then on that wave is the nervous system screen, the thoughts of the brain and everything, and on that is like a pattern, right? The body's making a pattern in the surface of the water, and so that pattern is all this wave pattern here. And if that can be like, where you break, and you see that pattern is moving on a really big wave, and then other people's patterns is also moving on that big wave. Right, so it's that experience of big mind is activity that you can. People are noticing the nature of their mind. You're noticing the nature of their consciousness, and that nature is of the water of the body. And so, depending on if pockets form or if bubbles form, where you have these sheaths of water, these bodies of water that are not sharing surface, right? They're kind of isolated perceptually in terms of their looker. Like their looker is looking inward. It's not noticing other compartments. It's not noticing different fluidic connections. It's not continuous with other parts and pockets of the body. The awareness cycles, and it's not necessarily cycling. It's just broken. It's broken and fragmented. Like it's constantly. It's not like you're not paying attention to something. It's just that attention is not coherent with whatever your attention is currently coming from at that time. Which might be, I don't know, some pain or some trauma or it's usually a fixation on the self, or like anything that fixates you on yourself, you lose track of the bigger wave that the self is embedded in. So if the self is doing really good, if the self is doing really bad, either one of those states where you become self-infatuated, you lose perception of the big wave that the self is embedded in. And so if you want to predict or understand those experiences of consciousness that you can have, or experiences and senses of self that you can have, you kind of have to realize that it's water. The way that water is behaving is the map of the only way that you could, like, language is based off of perceptions. You had to have seen it for the word to be able to build any meaning. Okay, like you just build your word net out of words that you've seen. You know that this word referenced this thing, and then that's what makes language powerful. So once you get up into the realm of mind, a lot of people go into the realm of mind with words that don't really reference anything until it gets loopy-doopy. If you realize that a lot of these mind or these psychological terms are referencing the activity and the behavior of the water in the body, then you can go into activities knowing what the activity is going to do. Like, what am I doing when I meditate? Well, it's like, what's your awareness doing? Look at it. What is your awareness doing? You can feel what your awareness is doing by how your blood's moving. Are there quote unquote dead spots? There's not really dead spots, right? Because if you could find like, oh, maybe I think I have a dead spot, and you can shift your awareness to there and you feel it, but then all of a sudden something else is a dead spot because you've just moved, and now this awareness is kind of like, for whatever, taking primacy of where you're directing your attention. Like you directed this awareness to that awareness, or the broad awareness, the big awareness to a particular part, to the exclusion of other parts. Right, so that broad awareness is a non-focusing of attention, so it's a floating, right? It's a cognizance of the fullness of the space. Right, like if the space is seen to be full, then that brings forth the attention. Right, so people do these rituals of liturgy, of drama, of acting, of putting things on stage, putting things on podiums, doing whatever else. The government ceremonies, these big rituals, these big things where people go, this moment, this space is important. And that brings the larger attention, the larger wave is, allegedly tuned into or seen or revealed in these moments where you come into and you sense the magnitude and the presence of the space. And people have this when they walk into a temple of any sort. There's a quietness, a stillness. That's the structure bringing you into the depth of your awareness, into the bulk water, the things supporting all of the things. From that vantage point, you can see or know. So let's relate this to exercise. If I was going to exercise, what's my checklist of what do I need to do to exercise without any sort of delusions? I have to be like, okay, I'm exercising. Well, who am I? I am awareness, right? I am awareness. What is awareness? Awareness is the easy water in my body. That's what it is. All right, I want to exercise myself. I want to increase skill. Okay, so that means I'm right at that level of where my attention is. That's where I'm wanting to move from, right? So I could practice martial art movements or dance where I'm making sure that I'm moving from there and attempting to accomplish the larger goal, the larger directive of a sport. Like if you go into a class, you can put your energy, your attention on your awareness, and then what's that awareness floating in? It's going to be floating in the currents and the desires of the instructor. So they're going to be pushing you to do certain things, and you can know that larger mind, that larger awareness is directing you or pushing you right there, and you can kind of feel it because there's a current in the water and there's a predictable current. You know it's going to be coming from there. You know the instructor's going to be pushing you. And so just like having, if you had your hand in water, you have a hard time feeling the water unless there was a current and the water starts to move by you. So a lot of times without top-down pressure, like without a guru or whatever, if you're trying to generate, people are trying to generate their own current of, I want to feel big mind. And so they move through big mind and think that the moving is somehow correlated with big mind. Like the noise of you moving yourself through big mind is confusing. If this isn't clear or obvious, it's not going to become clear or obvious that way. You have to submit yourself to like a teacher, a guru, whatever, a coach who's pushing you. And so instead of you doing it, you relax into that pushing and it pushes you. And then from that, of I'm being pushed, boom, you can see this big space within which the entire mind game of athleticism's come, because your opponents are pushing you from there, you're pushing yourself from there. And so unless you basically acquiesce to a coach or to a class or to another rhythm, you moving your attention or moving your mind makes it into, you can't tell the difference from yourself and big mind because there's just a lot of mix up there. So that's the need for a coach or a teacher or a guru, is because once you understand something, you'll start trying to do it, and the action and the effort will make it invisible, like it has to be done to you. So you have to know, I need to go to this teacher to get this type of stimulation, and then that pressure, that current on you starts to let you do the process of like self-space differentiation, and then eventually you'll start to resolve, and these different sheaths that used to be like time cycles of them aware here, then 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 here, when from any vantage point, any memory would be a contraction into some sort of like pain or distraction or whatever, not total body coherence. As you realize that, oh, it's about total body coherence, the contraction remerges with all the other different fascial compartments and everything, and all the different pockets and streams and currents of water in the body feel each other as one structure. And so there's a if you find that single unifying structure, you can be one wave and just be, that's incredibly simple, and that's it. You're just all of this. Whereas intellectually, you can be like, I'm all of this, and then you have this like 7 trillion cells, 6,472 arteries, like 9,000 fascial compartments, all filled up with like water transmitting, communicating, and it just gets like infinitely complex because you're describing every single wave on the surface of the big wave, and none of these little tiny waves really has anything to do with anything of the direction that this big wave's going. And so this should sound familiar. This should sound very familiar. Like anybody you might know of or have heard of who's like a successful awareness teacher, a coach, you'll find that they are in agreement with these fluidic principles, and that's what makes it good. And there's certain ways of like orienting towards the mind that generate lift. Some people understand this more directly, and they call it chi or prana or whatever. But even that's kind of the shimmering of the easy water. And so it's that that direction of attention where we really have control. It's like the body might need food and air and things to keep it going. Like the body needs correct nutrition, but the locus of control, the EZ water that changes the entropy of the body, that's the only place that we actually move anything from, and that's basically powered by light. It's basically powered by it's go look at the videos of like what EZ water does and where it gets the energy to do that from. It's a single medium that starts forming like increasingly charged layers on the surface of things that are outside of it. So you're looking at that happening fractally in the body, and that's where the sense of self is being generated. And if you want to get good, like even if it's something like jogging and you want to go, how do I jog? There's a sequence, and you start out with this number of miles and this pace, and you do these drills and all that. And if you realize that like, oh, I'm actually just getting this event to happen, right? So I need to feel all the mind. I need to move without the movement pulling the unity of my consciousness apart. And once you realize that, you just go, I'm going to start moving forward with unity of consciousness and see how fast I can get it to go. And you'll notice that different drills pop out because it's like, oh, okay, it's moving like this. Well, how do I stick with it? How do I stick with the waves that my circulation system and my heart and my movement are generating? So there's the weight shifts, everything are very obvious the same way. How does a surfer stay with a wave? Well, the wave's right there, and you have this much, you have some amount of freedom in how you can carve and move back and forth on that wave, but there's an underlying skill or ability that's like staying with the wave. That's all that's going on for all physical activities. So you want to feel the wave, like if you're jogging, if you do, this is something that I'm willing to do or whatever, if you live on Maui, you can jog, and as two or more people, right, you can do this with prayer, jogging, like two or more people, and it starts to make a very obvious big group wave. Anytime you form a group with other people, you've created like an electrostatic wave. Your consciousnesses are merged. Like when you're on a team or when you're in a pack, when you're running in a group, when you're in a motorcycle gang, on anything, you're moving as a singular wave, and so that gives you access to this like big mind. But it's not necessarily big mind. It's just all of these patterns. If you try and access big mind by needing the group, needing the activity, needing the whatever, then that activity will ultimately eventually turn addictive or pathological or something like that, like sports mania, just some sort of personality imbalance, because you need this thing to happen to notice big mind instead of like big mind is not dependent on anything happening, right? So that's been expressed as like finding happiness within. Right, something has to happen where that the looking or the reverence or the sacredness, right? Like if you're in a sacred place, that awe, that wonder, people do this by like going to visit like the pyramids or India or Ireland or something like that. You try and get, or Mount Shasta, you're trying to get to a place that like inspires reverence and awe, and that shifts the consciousness to the larger encapsulating wave. and the deeper this goes, like my attention is really heavily saturated in the water and the space around me. So I'm just kind of like this skinny guy that's not too weak. I'm a swimmer, right? Like I'm not that awesome at grounding off the floor, so I'm not very strong. But that still is just a different type of pressing the attention. Like if I'm going to squat, I can do these movements where I'm creating mental activity, and I'm directing my attention there. I'm starting to move. I'm moving from there, right? Anytime that I'm moving, I'm using this power to direct my attention and to change the direction of entropy. Like my entropy is to fall to the floor, but like right here in my legs, I'm using the power of my consciousness to change the direction of my nerves firing, the direction of how I'm breathing, the direction of everything that's going in my body, and I'm changing that with my awareness so that it does this. And so where I'm changing that is like in my legs, and so that's that I'm pushing from there, and because I'm pushing from there, it draws the attention to there, and you get this accumulation of the awareness, or the accumulation of easy water in that space. And at that time, as it accumulates, it's basically like a high energy situation. So it wants to diffuse into the surrounding area. It wants to remain easy water wherever you generate focus. It wants to remain, but it gets harder and harder to remain in that area, so it diffuses. And that diffusion can go into the muscle fibers, into the cells. It goes into the surrounding area. That's why you get a benefit from like a cardiovascular workout. This is relatively intense levels of awareness, or of the focusing of the will. Like if you're sitting at the couch or something and you're trying to just focus on your breath, it does the exact same thing if the focus is intense. But when you do something like horse stance or running or cycling, anything to where you can stay fluidic, it focuses the chi where the effort is coming from. And so it starts to build up charge there, and then that charge diffuses to the rest of the body and increases in awareness. So you become more aware of your muscles, and as you become more aware of your muscles, they get bigger, and as they get bigger, you become more aware of them, so you can, and it's the same thing for your body. And it's the same thing for the space around you. The more aware that you become of the space that you're in, of that mind, the denser and the thicker it gets, and the more that it starts to very much feel that you're underwater, that you're in an increasingly dense medium that takes the weight off of you, and that you have to deal with. You have to move through it. So as you move, you have to move in like hydrodynamic ways that are in alignment with the drag mechanics of the mental fluid that you're moving through. So efficient movement patterns are how to move through that water with the most amount of drag. And then there's also, you have to get the consciousness like cycling up and down. Like if you want to be a jumper, if you want to be endurance, you have to be doing the practices day after day after day, and that gets the water moving in certain ways. Or you have to go to extreme places, like where you feel that fear of death, you feel that rush, that adrenaline. That's the consciousness there crashing. And so that's where you're able to ride it. You ride the edge, you find your limit, and you're pushed past your limits, just like a surfer is pushed past the waves, or pushed past their swimming ability by catching the wave. When people go towards those areas where you get that sense of death, you're right at that edge where consciousness is falling. Like at the edge of the cliff, that awareness is like falling down there. So to get on that cliff is this constant pressure that like sort of wakes you up, that you can work against. And then that constant pressure, that constant fear rushing over the whole body builds up chi and builds up awareness the same way that doing cardio does. or of getting in situations that you think are like amazingly important in like religious ceremonies, sacraments, graduations, just ceremonies, just ways of making the space feel palpable, causes all of that. You start to become aware of your own awareness. You become self-aware, and then that builds up or that accumulates energy, and that energy can innervate and go into the body and causes increased health. Like if you've got whatever isolated pocket of like damaged like thing, or like cellular cancer is an example of the cancer is when a cell has lost identity with the surrounding pocket. But if you build up enough energy, attention, and awareness all around that cell, there's going to be just a crease. Eventually it's going to and become the same awareness. Like if you build up super duper high consciousness around low consciousness, eventually it saturates. But it has to be very high conscious, otherwise it can actually, if it sucks the awareness down, and then you're both low consciousness. But yeah, that's what's going on over here. And when all that's true, so you can do really cool things with like sticks, swords, the pool, all these things change how your awareness is functioning. Like if you're holding a sword, your awareness is coming to a point, it's focused, it's coherent, it's moving together, and so you can feel like and how that sword cuts through water, cuts through banana trees. Right? You can feel the precision of your own awareness, because that's happening inside of you. And since it's happening inside of you, your awareness, since it's aware of the tool, aware of the implement, anything that tool or implement does, your awareness is doing. And when then as once the awareness learns how to do an activity, you can slowly take away the implement, putting more and more load on the awareness. And then lo and behold, you're capable of doing the thing without the tool. So you can use water to put your awareness into very profound, very deep, very supportive, very kinesthetically responsive states of consciousness. And these states of consciousness can make it very easy to have very deep, very profound realizations about the nature of anything you happen to put your awareness on. Because you've like if you can get in the pool, and if you breathe correctly and sync, you automatically shift to the big mind of the pool or of the water into the breath. And so since that's shifted, it's easy to shift. You can see that in all these other different like locations in life, like and find it. I don't know. So it's like that's kind of what happened. Is I used water to study reality, and kind of found that like, oh, okay, it actually is. It's water. And then you look around and you see that like, yeah, it's water. That's confirmed in a lot of different ways: mythologically, historically, scientifically, religiously, metaphysically, symbolically. Just the location of water in our lives, it's central. So it's just a central tenet of thought, understanding, and relatability. And so when you realize it's that, well, why is it that? And that's because it's like, oh, for the most part, you could very damn well say that this is the substance of attention itself. And like, well, maybe the energy or the light that gives the water, that gives the awareness, the ability to act, maybe that light is even a higher thing, but it's, but lower than that. Once that light is received, then the looking, the direction of the attention, the flexing of will, right? All like the will to direct the attention is just fractally aggregated in doing something like a squat. This is the same push, it's the exact same pressure by which you control your attention. So I'm gonna put my attention on my head, and I'm gonna put my attention on my feet. And so I had to push on the attention to change its location. I had to influence it in some way. That ability to push the attention is the same thing of I'm here, I have to influence my body in some way to make it go up. It's the exact same effort. And so the only thing that is that exact same effort across scales and sizes and types is water. And it's the surface of the water is the conscious awareness of the looker and the observer, and then the bulk or the deeper water that is not surface, the non-surface, the non-easy water is undifferentiated, it's whole, it is before observation, it is before the ability to direct or focus or lens the attention whatsoever. And so that is the fullness of being. And when the surface is looking into the fullness of being, it brings more fullness of being. The surface supports that loop, and you get into this like Trinitarian love cycle with awareness itself. And then that is a reflection of, that tells us something about reality. Like the way that awareness works tells us something about reality. It's awareness is working in a way that's like a response to or a mirroring of the exact of how reality is. Just like water's like revealing the activity of a space. Water's revealing the activity of space. And so yeah, a lot of things are just easier. Like it's just kind of a suggestion. I think it seems, I'm at this point where it's like, to me it seems insane not to be this way, so everyone seems insane.